minute, Cindy Bell is over here. If you have an index card you'd like to pass on to her, we will get them, and we'll go in the same order for the first question. We'll start here with Senator Seward and go down, and then we'll do the reverse the next time. And we'll try to get as many questions in as we can. So to all the candidates, what will you do to offset our loss of seniority in the Senate? Our district has been carved up. If you understand the question, obviously we have 4 districts now, we had been only 2. What about grants and et cetera also as part of your answer? And we'll start here with Senator Seward.
Up to the podium.
Yes, we please.
Well, I understand the sentiment behind the question, but I frankly disagree with those sentiments because it is true Ulster County is going from 2 Senate districts now to 4, parts of 4, but I see that as a positive because going forward, Ulster counties will not have 2 voices in the state Senate. You will have 4 voices in the state Senate. I think that is a positive for this county because I intend to work as a team with my Senate colleagues representing Ulster County, and we will be a strong voice for this county. Now, loss of seniority. Now, I will bring 26 years of seniority to the table when I'm talking on behalf of this county. I'm an assistant majority leader in addition to a chair of the insurance committee. We have Senator Bonasek, also a senior member, a key committee assignments, and Senator Larkin, and of course we hope to have George Amador joining us as well. I think that's going to be a great mix of senior members and a new member in a new district in the Senate, and we will be an effective voice on behalf of this county. So I see it as a positive. Now, I have parts of 9 counties in my 51st district, but I am very used to having a large, sprawling district, and you will see a lot of me here in Ulster County. I like this face-to-face form of communication. I know there are a lot of high-tech ways of communicating, but nothing beats looking people in the eye and having a dialogue personally. And so you will see me often, and as I said in my opening remarks, I will be on the team with my Senate colleagues, Assembly, the Chamber, individual business owners, and residents here in Ulster County. We're going to be an effective voice for you.
Thank you. George?
I think that Ulster County is fortunate. Not because it's going to be diluted or your seniority taken away or because you have 4 different senators. I think that's strength. Strength in Albany comes by numbers. And when you have 4 senators that we can continue to work together, 4 senators in the majority, 4 senators who will represent Ulster County in the best interest of how we're going to create jobs for our young people, how we're going to bring about the school, more funding for rural schools in Ulster County. How we're going to bring about improvements of our infrastructure. My goodness, you'll drive around some of these back roads throughout Ulster County. It needs a lot of help. It needs a lot of help. It needs a lot of heavy lifting, especially when you've got a lot of special interests and the numbers of legislators who are from New York City. See, they outnumber the upstairs. So I think Ulster County has a unique situation. And at the table, when you have great representation of Senator Larkin, Senator Bonasek, and Senator Seward, I look forward to working with them. In my 5 years of experience in the state assembly, you know what? I've worked with Kevin Cahill, Assemblyman Cahill, to bring about some good reform, to bring about an Article 10 citing bill that we hadn't had in about 13 years in the state of New York. That's how we're going to reduce our energy costs. That's how we're going to grow our economy, is by allowing the representation, strong representation, to be vocal and to bring about the representation of its people. So strength in numbers. You're on the winning side here. Thank you.
I think the best person you send to the Senate Senate is the person who's speaking the loudest on your issues. And that person is someone who can work with anyone, because we have important issues to address. Making sure we're supporting small businesses with tax credits instead of providing tax credits to businesses that take jobs overseas. Making sure we have campaign finance reform so the special interests do not buy off our elections. It's critical that we have a governor who's moving in the right direction. He needs a team to get some key issues done. Things like raising the minimum wage. I think that's important, especially for women, because women are the most of the people earning minimum wage are women who are working at places like Walmart, and they're trying to take care of their families. When we give people who need a little bit more money to meet their needs, they spend it locally. That's going to create more economic activity. I also support the governor's position on the Reproductive Health Act. We need to make sure women continue to have the ability to make their own reproductive health care decisions. That's an important issue when we look at the conversations that are taking place on a national level. We need to make sure we get the Reproductive Health Care Act passed in the state Senate and the governor can sign it. I'm going to do that. Thank you.
Bill, same question.
Well, you know, to talk about 4, think about it. Our Yankees left us, and they lost 4-0. But we're going to take 4. I talked to Mike Hyman after the redistricting started, and Mike said to me, boy, isn't that nice? Instead of pounding 2 senators, I'm going to pound 4 of them. You're going to have 4 senators that are working together. Jim and I have worked together for many years. We serve on the national boards even. We're the only state that's had 2 consecutive presidents of the National Conference of Insurance, and we made many, many changes in what the nationals were doing with insurance. Mr. Amador, when I first met him, I was a member of the Housing, and he wasn't even in the legislature, but he knew how important it was. And he came down and gave us seminar to us as to what we should be doing, how we should be pressing to bring the federal money in to do the business of housing. 4 representatives, just think, the 4 of us walk into Skelos and say, we need this in Ulster County. And here is why. And 4 voices are telling the majority leader. Bonasek chairs the committee, Jim chairs the committee, I'm the majority whip. And I sit with Jim and the leader every Monday. And we discuss issues that are of importance to the state, not just one area. And the most important part about it is that we have to work as a team for what we want to accomplish. There's much to be done. But I'm proud to say, I hear all these people say, oh, I'm a Democrat and I'll work with the governor. I have worked with the governor. Thank you.
Being a teacher, I've learned to read into things, and I believe that this question actually has to do with the redistricting and the disappointment in the redistricting. I mean, I walked in here, I'm from Orange County, I sat down at a table, and immediately I heard, what do I and Ellenville have to do with Herkimer? So although you're going to see 4 senators from this particular area, okay, those senators are responsible for their entire district. And again, I think that the idea behind the redistricting which occurred was a point being shown here in frustration of, where were you, senators, when our district was being formed? Why did you let us get broken up into 4 different parts? We have common concerns throughout Ulster County. Now, I worked in Marlborough for many years, and I'm glad to say that if you take a look at the map, Marlborough is one of the municipalities which I will represent. So I personally know what they need there. I also have been through Plattekill.
I've lived in Milton. And that's the type of thing that you need. You need representatives who are advocates for you every day. Not once a week, not every other day. Every day. And that's what I plan on being for the 39th Senate District. Thank you.
Chris, stay right there. We're in reverse order. We got that Ellenville question for you, so perfect timing on your part.
And this really critically is one of the more important questions in Ulster County in the coming months and years. There's a great deal of talk about a referendum to allow casino gambling in New York. If it passes, will you support the siting of a casino in the town of Warsing?
So reverse order, we'll start with you.
Well, first of all, I do support the siting of casinos. At this point, I would not want to pick a particular place or spot to put it. I think that requires studies to take a look at where it will benefit all of us the most. But I'm definitely for casinos. I'm definitely for the formation of new jobs. Okay? I also believe, just to let you know, because again, I've heard this from surrounding areas, I also heard that, you know, when we do put a casino in, we have to be sure that every municipality that is going to contribute to that casino through infrastructure use and so on like that is definitely repaid for those types of uses. Because we can't use your road if you're some other municipality, wear down your roads and then not pay you to repair them just because we've cited a casino in one place. But I'm definitely for casinos. I'm definitely for the fact that they will create new jobs. I would not at this particular point say it should be a Warsink or any particular point. I do believe that that does need study before that decision is made. I am a scientist, and you know, I need to have the facts put in front of me, and I do go from the facts to determine where something like that should happen.
Thank you. All right, Bill?
Quick little history. Len Kane had all dark hair when we first started talking about casinos in Ulster County. So I got a picture of him, by the way, anybody wants it, they're $5. We talk about casinos forever. And you know, there's people who say we don't need them, there's people who say we do need them. The task force that's now, and is that you, Kevin? I don't have those glasses on. Kevin and I went through a roadmap of the casinos and working with Don Bonasek. At that time, Kevin, I was the chairman of Racing and Wagering. The biggest issue for me was I want to see a diagram that says, we'd like to put it in Jim's district. Okay, but here is what the casino and the state must do to the local governments. Remember, we've got hospitals to worry about. We have services that are required. There are streets that have to be done. There's police effort that has to be there. And we said then, correct me, and Kevin was one of those who always worried about DPW. I figured he had a road 500 yards and he wanted to make sure that the snow was plowed. But that's one of the first things, because we need to know the relationship between the state, the vendor, and the municipalities that are going to be impacted. Thank you very much. I support casinos, but I support it only. There are municipalities who talk about fracking and they say, we don't want it. We're a home rule state. And if a municipality says, we don't want it in our municipality, the state should not have the authority to overrun it.
There are still a lot of unanswered questions about casino gambling. Where are they going to be? What types of jobs are they going to be creating? We want good paying jobs. What impact are they going to have on their municipalities? How do we make sure those impacts are not damaging to those municipalities? And of course, if a community doesn't want it in their district, we should respect that. But the one issue that bothers me about casino gambling is this is an industry where there's money to be made. And when there's money to be made, there's money that's going to be flowing in the political process to try to influence that decision-making process. I want to see campaign finance reform done first before we settle on the casino gambling issue. Because I think then we will have a better chance of making sure we're making these decisions in the best interest of the public and our citizens, rather than the best interest of large corporations who are out to make money. Casino gambling is not necessarily bad, but let's make sure we're doing the right thing. Let's pass campaign finance reform first.
Well, it's a very important topic, the expansion of table games and gambling in the state of New York. Constitutionally, we need a constitutional amendment. The governor put forth a bill to allow 7 casinos to be placed somewhere in the state of New York. Doesn't say where, didn't say any local involvement, didn't talk about home rule, didn't talk about how we're going to address the effects on the society and the issues that come with gambling. So I didn't vote for, I actually voted no on the constitutional amendment. Not because I don't support the expansion of table games, but there was a lot of unanswered questions that I had. And I would like to see the ability, and the discussion talked about how we're going to expand some of the facilities we already have in the state of New York that allow some gambling to happen. Whether it's racinos, they already deal with, localities already know. And they have the infrastructure already in place to expand possibly those first. But we have to respect local rule, home rule, and we should. But we also need to address the issue, because we will, as New Yorkers, see before us, it's maybe 2 years from now, the constitutional amendment question, proposal that will be up, and we have to vote on it, and we'll see what happens. But I think we got to respect local government, and we have to do a much better thorough investigation and research on this. But there is a place at the table for the expansion of table games.
Jim?
Well, I will echo much of what some of my colleagues have said, but I did support the proposal as it was presented to us earlier this year, because I am a believer in let's get this issue before the voters of the state and let the people decide this issue, whether we're going to move forward here in New York with casino gambling or not. The process is, with a change in our Constitution, is 2 successively elected legislatures have to pass the bill, then it goes on the ballot. And so we've had the one vote, the first vote earlier this year. So this is a key issue for us going forward in 2013. And before we get to that second vote and it goes on the ballot, that's when the details have to be worked out. Because I don't think we as legislators and the public here in New York want to buy, shall we say, a pig in a poke here. We want to know where these casinos are going to be, what kind of impact, positive and potentially negative, on local communities, what's the relationship with the operator of the casino and the locals, the state and the locals, and all of those issues have to be worked out. So this is going to be a key issue for us in 2013. But having said that, I take very seriously when I receive a resolution from a local government, whether it be Ulster County Legislature or a town board or a village board. I see that when the local elected officials, on behalf of local citizens, take a stand in an official resolution on behalf of those local constituents, that means something to me. And so when local governments here in Ulster County come forward and say, Senator Seward, please fight for a casino for us, I will be there fighting for you.
You can stay right there, Jim. Would you like this for you?
So this question actually has been raised a few times in the past, and it has to do with the tax cap that was passed. And I think a lot of folks in business thought that there was going to be a second part of the tax cap. So the question is, what can you do, what will you do to end unfunded mandates, which really do crush many of our local budgets?
I think, no question, excellent point. You know, when I talked earlier about not going back to the Capitol to protect the status quo, one of my key priorities going forward, in addition to the job creation and economic development, is the issue of unfunded mandates. You know, when we passed the property tax levy cap, I stood up on the floor of the Senate and said, you know, I'm going to support this, but this is only half the job if we're going to get serious about property taxes in New York State. The other half is the question of unfunded mandates. And I have been disappointed, frankly, and frustrated that we have not yet moved forward in an aggressive way. Now, as Bill Larkin will I'm sure, say to you, we in the Senate, we have passed $1 billion worth of mandate relief. We passed a constitutional amendment that said no more unfunded mandates. We've done it all. Now, we have not had, sorry Kevin, we haven't had a partner with the Assembly, and I've been somewhat disappointed in the governor on this question as well. So, but going back there, we need to get serious with mandate relief. Now, we have done some things. The Tier 6 was about in that direction to help relieve pressure on local governments. The Medicaid reforms are helping to a certain extent. I would have liked to have been much more aggressive, because the Medicaid program, that's the mother of all mandates in my mind. But we need to have the results of the governor's mandate relief council. They've gone all over the state. They've had all these meetings and hearings. We haven't had their report yet. We need to move forward. That's a key issue for us in the year 2013, because we have to finish the job. The tax caps only half. Getting rid of the unfunded mandates is the second half of the job if we're truly going to have property tax relief, and that is so desperately needed. Someone cited the tax report out recently. One of the things that drives us up is, in New York, is the property tax. We've got to get serious.
You know, one of the most frustrating aspects of upstate New York is when 2 times a year you go to the mailbox and an envelope's in there. It's called your property taxes or your school taxes. It's frustrating because you know it's not going to be down lower than last year's. It's going to be up. And if you look at the history over the last 10 years prior to the property tax cap that was implemented, your property taxes on average went up 80% in those 10 years. That means about 8%, some places 10% every single year. Let's see a show of hands. How much of your income went up? 10%, 8% in 1 year. Yeah, that's what I thought. No one. And as a private sector individual who pays an astronomical amount of property taxes, because I'm a developer, I'm a homeowner, I own some commercial properties, this is what's plaguing the state of New York and the growth. So what did I do? In 2007, I had championed, and I'm still in, making it my #1 priority, property taxpayer protection. And how do we, as property owners, get some protection? We have to force the state legislature, the elected officials, and local governments, school board members, to finally start feeling a little pressure. Because we, the people, are not their ATM machines that they can continue to just raise taxes well over the rate of inflation, that tax levy going up that we can't control. We can't sustain because our incomes are not growing that fast. So a property tax cap, boy, I'm so happy we got it in the state of New York. We see over 85% of local schools and districts finally start living within the property tax cap. Now, that is the key, the blunt instrument that forces the biggest #1 issue in 2012 and 13, mandate relief. Medicaid reimbursements to the county, yes, but there's many other unfunded mandates that need to be addressed, and we're going to work on it, and we're going to get done. It's going to get done because of the property tax cap.
Thanks, Celia?
Let's be clear, I support the property tax what is happening in my school, which is in Assemblyman Amador's district. It's a rural school. We have a $14 million budget. Our property tax cap combined with state aid cuts has been devastating. We have a $1.3 million hole in our budget, which continues to grow. We run out of money in 3 years because we're spending down our fund balance to close the gap. We cannot, nor do we want to raise local property taxes. But because there is no mandate relief, which is what the legislature, including Assemblyman Amador, should have been working on, we're forced to cut our educational programming. When we go out with a tax levy increase, it only of 1%, it only brings in $70,000. We can't possibly balance the budget of our schools on the backs of our property owners, and we don't have the ability to get this money anywhere else. So we are cutting our programs. The 23 school districts in this new 46th Senate district have lost over $45 million in cuts because they don't tell you there's a gap elimination adjustment. The budgets to schools are being very difficult to manage, and unless we change how we fund public schools in the state and rely more on state aid instead of property taxes, it's not going to change. 2 years ago, the state covered our school budget with state aid by 50%. Today, the state aid is only covering 40%. So this has pushed the burden to local property tax owners. They're covering 60% of our budget. We need to get more equitable state aid going to all our schools, and that's going to help ease the burden on local property owners. This is not a Democratic Republican issue. We have to work on this together. We need more equitable aid going to all our schools so we can adequately fund our educational program for our kids and make sure it's affordable to our local property owners.
Thank you.
Do you ever hear that saying, what goes around comes around? That's it. We talk about mandate relief. There were 75 items suggested in mandate relief that went to the governor's task force. And I'm not blaming the governor. He was looking at how do we change everything. But not one of them got advanced by that committee. Not one. Because before we do anything, we got to look at New York City. You know, a colleague of ours one time, Jim and I were on it with Randy Cool, said let's cut off New York City and let's name the rest of the state Western New York. I think we'd have been better off. But talking about mandate relief, let's look at the number one issue that causes us trouble. County legislators, what did I just saw? Just Wayne Harris. Jim, the state of New York spends $1 billion. You hear that? $1 billion on Medicaid a week. The largest in the United States of America. We spend more on money in Medicaid than Florida, Texas, and California combined. Yet, we can't do that. We can't cut it. Other states are doing it. Why can't we? When we talk about mandate relief, let me tell you something. I live in a school district, and I pay taxes to it. I have a son that pays big taxes to another school district. They go in after grants from the federal government or Oshkosh or Bushkush or someplace else, and they get $2 or $3 million. Guess what happens 2 years from now? Anybody know what happens to the $2 million? It's gone. We need to keep this program. Well, your school district decided you wanted that program. It wasn't 742 school districts. It was one. So we have to start to see. There's plenty of places to cut. You just have to have the will to do it. We're going to go back and we'll have 4 strong voices telling you that we will accomplish it. Thank you.
Chris.
Unfunded mandates. Mandates. Things that you and I are told to do. By whom? state legislature. And let me ask you this. I'm in a classroom. I told you that I'm a teacher. How many times have they come to you and said, what do you need? What can we do away with? When was the last time that somebody came to you and asked you that? And that's the problem with the mandates. I can tell you, being in the education system for years, there is waste. There is lots of waste. But if we're not asked and we don't have an input into where that waste is and where to cut without destroying programs, without making businesses go bankrupt, we're never going to solve this problem. The 2% tax cap was a wonderful Band-Aid. I didn't like the way it was put in at all, but it was a good Band-Aid. I don't like the fact of that supermajority vote, for one. I think that's against the Constitution of the United States. Okay? Number two, the unfunded mandates didn't come with it, as has been talked about already. And that was the opposite direction of the way that any logical person should have worked. They should have first come through with the unfunded mandates and then said, stick within this 2% tax cap. And the final thing that I'm very discouraged about is that there are so many elected officials in this room. And to me, to say you have to stay within a 2% tax cap, I went around. Many of those municipalities were under and have been under 2% increases for years. Not all of them, but many of them. And I thought it showed a lack of trust in our locally elected officials. We really need to get up there. I told you that my very first issue is property tax reform. That's what we need to address. That's not what we're hearing about from Albany. Thank you.
Chris, stay here again. So we'd like to have each of the candidates give us a brief summary, a couple minutes each, about their positions, and we'll start at this end. Chris, go ahead, you're first.
Thank you. We'll let the folks leave. They've got to go. Some of them, I guess, have to go to class and to work and so on like that. Understandable. Thank you very much for being here. Again, it was a very short period of time. There are many more issues that we all need to cover. But I thank you again for allowing us to come and at least express our opinions and where we stand on a few of the issues that are facing us today. Once again, I want to let you know that I do feel, sometimes it's not a good word, but I feel it's a necessary word in this particular case, that we definitely need change. New York State is not on the right track. For small business, for people who are paying property tax, for programs that we have here in New York State. We need change. We need somebody up in Albany, as I mentioned, every day who advocates for the right things, for the things that are going to increase the economy, grow the economy. Not just vote on a bill and, okay, I'm pro-business. There's more than that when you want to get something done, especially, as mentioned, when you're talking about two houses in the legislature and working across that aisle. And I feel that I am the person who will get up there into the Senate, be able to work with the governor, as I mentioned, as a Democrat, and be able, as I already have, many good friends in the Assembly, to work with them to get this stuff done. Okay, you won't hear me blaming anybody else. I understand that the things that you need are my responsibility as a senator. And I promise you that I will work every day, advocating for what you and the residents of this district, the 39th Senate District, need. Property tax reform, living wage jobs, mandate relief, every day. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Chris. Bill, 2 minutes summary.
I've had a distinct privilege of representing this county in some way, shape, or form for 32 years. I've never shirked my responsibility. I am a full-time senator, 7 days a week. If you don't believe me, check my phone mail at home, check my telephone. check my kids and grandkids and say, when are you gonna do something for us? You know, Amy Bolt-Christ of Orange County, if somebody ever knew her, your mom did, she used to say, when you campaign, you can take the moon and put him at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and the sun, and you can take the stars, and then you can put them to bed at night. But once you get elected, you have a responsibility. That's to govern. In the past 2 years, we've governed in the Senate Republican majority with the governor. We've been invited to his little castle where he took to task those who didn't want to cooperate and move the government forward. And we did with him. We're proud to do it because we're not doing it for the governor. We're doing it for the people of the state of New York. The name of the game is called Cooperate and Graduate. And we've made strides in the past 2 years. And when you have 4 representatives in the majority come January the 9th, we go back, Jim. You can rest assured that we will work together. Because there's only one thing to do in this country. Duly elected representatives speak with a voice that has been entrusted to them by the people. Politics should play last place. We should be there for the people, not the party.
Are you pro-choice?
Pardon
We'll
me?
get to the rest of the questions later.
No.
The candidates can stay around later and ask, we'll have individual questions after we're done.
Thanks for having me. I want to thank the Ulster County Chamber of Commerce. I work for a statewide association of nonprofits who do affordable housing, groups like RUPCO. And it was my job to advocate for them and, similar to the chamber, provide technical assistance and advocacy services. And one of the things we did is we created a cash flow loan program for our groups when they were in a financial crisis because their state contracts were not running on time. I know what it's like to create jobs. I created jobs. I know what it's like to save jobs. We were able to save hundreds of jobs and help companies keep their doors open. But we've got a lot of issues we need to address that are not getting done in Albany. Issues around property tax and school aid. We have a financial crisis in our schools and our property taxes. We have to change this. We have to change the discussion. I will work with Governor Cuomo and whoever else is in the legislature to address the schools and property tax relief. Property owners cannot continue to be overburdened by school taxes. We can do it differently by making sure we get our fair share in state aid. And because I'm an advocate and I go to the Senate and I go to the Assembly and I advocate for what's going on with my rural school, you know what I get responded back? The response I get back is, we know we don't fund rural schools and small city schools adequately. My response is, well, what are you doing about it? We are running out of money and we're running out of options, and we have to deal with this. And that's why I'm running, because we need to focus on getting the job done. And it doesn't, as I said, it's not a Democratic or Republican issue. It's something that's important to all of our communities. Because when people want to move to Ulster County, they say, how are the taxes and how are the schools? What's the job situation like? We need to make sure we've got thriving communities here. We also need to focus on making sure issues like reproductive health and our ability to make our own decisions are left up to women. And that's something the Senate Republicans do not support. And we want changes. We have to send the right people there to make that decision.
I want to thank the Chamber, the Women League of Voters, League of Women Voters for putting this on. I want to thank all of you for taking the time out of your busy schedule. I know you got to get back to work, so do I. But I can tell you that I'm excited on the days that are ahead. I'm excited that not just 2 weeks from now we'll have an election and this whole thing will be over. We can get back to work. We can stop getting the mail and stop seeing negative campaign beating and tearing off the face or tying my hands or doing whatever. I guess I never thought I looked as bad as I did in those pictures. But I can say one thing, that's not how we're gonna build a stronger New York. We're gonna build a stronger New York by working together. When there was one party rule just 2 years ago, one party rule in Albany, you know what we got? We got $14 billion of taxes increase. $14 billion of more spending, more fees, more taxes. And you know where those hit the hardest? In all of our small businesses' pockets. All of us as citizens of the state of New York. And we wonder why our insurances are too high. We wonder why our health care coverage is too expensive and seniors can't afford to live in their homes and afford their medication. We wonder why we can't drive on the New York State Thruway Authority, or the New York State Thruway because of increase of fees and taxes and gas costs that will skyrocket. It's not about Republican or Democrat. That's not how I operate in the private sector, or any of us operate in the private sector. Politics divides. We need unity because we are Americans. And what we do not have in the state of New York is affordability and a strong voice for small businesses that will create jobs for our young people in the communities they once grew up in. That's why I took time out of my private sector life to get involved, because I am sick and tired, I am frustrated, and I am concerned. And we can build a better Ulster County together. God bless you. Thank you.
Well, I too want to thank the Chamber and the League of Women Voters for sponsoring this morning's forum. I enjoyed the discussion. You know, I have been blessed to have received overwhelming support every time I sought election in my current Senate district. And I'm going to work hard every single day to earn that kind of trust and support right here in Ulster County. You know, my motto has always been, if it's important to you, it's important to me. And I look forward to standing up for the people of this county, standing up for the communities of Ulster County in the New York State Senate. You know, I'm pleased to say that there is a new synergy at the state capitol, a feeling of cooperation and communication, and we are moving in the right direction, but there is so much more to be done. And there are certain pitfalls that we need to avoid going forward, it seems to me. We need to stop spending money that we don't have. We need to stop mortgaging our children's future through borrowing. We need to stop taxing people out of their homes and jobs out of New York State. And we have to stop our children and grandchildren for having to move out of New York State just to find a good paying job. And how do we do that? I say we build on the momentum of the last 2 years. Let's keep moving in that right direction. Lower taxes and debt, less government and government spending, and concrete job creation initiatives. That's the Chamber's goal. That's my goal as well. These are the values that my constituents tell me that they want, and that's certainly going to be what I'm going to continue to fight for at the Capitol. So in 2013, January 1, when I become the senator once again for the 51st District of those 4 towns here in Ulster County, I look forward to using my seniority and my experience to stand up for you, and that's exactly what I intend to do. Thanks so much.
So our purpose today was kind of just give you a snapshot of these folks. I think you can see they're all very approachable. I would think we should all thank them very much for stepping forward and offering to serve us for the next year. Thank you all for taking the time to be with us this morning, and thanks to our sponsor, Federal Credit Union. Please stay and you can talk with our candidates for a little while. And again, thank you for coming. We'll see you next month.